In 1916, the stakes are first raised as devastating storm floods in the north of Holland sweep towards Amsterdam. They wipe out everything in their path, destroying crops and decimating livestock, just when the First World War is already creating drastic food shortages. If you don't drown, you'll starve. The Dutch have lost to the ocean once too often. To fight back, they embark on a megastructure of unprecedented dimensions, one of the world's longest dams, to shut out the sea before it strikes again. There's been talk of a giant dam in the north of Holland for over 100 years, but this latest disaster is the catalyst for building what still stands as one of the longest sea barriers in the world. First, the basic building materials must be gathered. These consist of sand, clay and rocks. From experience, the Dutch have already discovered that glacial boulder clay is the best primary material for a dam. Fortunately, it's in plentiful supply, just from dredging the seabed on site. But the rocks are a big problem. Vast quantities have to be imported from Belgium and Germany. A series of docks and wharfs are specially built. With only primitive technology available, the work is extremely labour-intensive. At its peak, up to 7,000 labourers are housed on site in newly built barracks along the coast. The scale of the operation is simply mind-boggling. 105 flatboats, 72 tugboats and 73 barges are commissioned to transport the materials around the worksite. Construction then begins by depositing the boulder clay into the open sea. As it builds up near to the surface, the trench is filled with sand and then covered with more clay. The surface of the structure is then reinforced with a covering of willow wood mattresses. It's back-breaking work. For the underwater section, these are weighed down using the imported rocks, which are placed on one by hand. Even as the tide comes in, construction must continue. As long as you can stand up and pass the boulders, you keep working. When the water gets too deep, you jump into the boats with the rocks and carry on. It's relentless and exhausting. Using sheer force of will and a great deal of sweat, the closure dike grows across the North Sea. As the gap gets narrower, the water rushing by the construction team gets faster, and as the tide turns, it also switches direction every few hours. First dragging the workers in one direction as the tide floods in, then in the other as it rushes back out to sea. But at last, 5 years after work began, the final bucketful of boulder clay is dropped in the last remaining gap. A few brave workers are the first to cross to the other side. At 1:02 on the afternoon of May the 28th, 1932, the last rock is placed in the wall, completing one of the longest dams on Earth. It still stands today as one of the world's longest.